Hi everyone, it's Diane with Batik, and today is Fabric Friday. Today we are going to update you on all of those projects I introduced last Friday. A couple that I've completed, and I still have 4 more to go, but May is not quite over, so I'm hopeful that I can finish the next 4 before the end of May. And I also want to talk about a customer question. Actually, it was more than one customer, and it relates to our jersey knit and the yardage needed for the simple elegant tee. And actually, I'm going to answer a couple of other questions relating to layout of that specific pattern and a couple of others, and how to really utilize both the jersey knit and the rayon a little bit more efficiently. Okay, but first I want to start out by giving you an update on 2 of the garments I introduced. One is right over here, and it is the Simplicity 9275. Here's the front of the pattern. And I had made this previously, and several of you know that this is on our website as a garment kit, as well as I feature the fabric and the pattern separately. But the first time I made this, I made version A, and I'm going to stand up here just a little bit, but it's actually the garment that's on the cover there, and it is the red version right up here as well. It is a longer version with a pocket. This time I wanted to showcase more of a spring summer palette for the colorway of the jersey knit, and this is Phoenix Soft Serve. The only change that I made to this particular garment is that I did not put the cuff on the sleeve, and I did not put the pocket on it. I never put anything in the pocket, so I just decided not to do that this time. And I really love how it turned out. I love the soft colors. I just think it is so pretty, and it really is spring-like and summer-like. And I think for those of you who have been following along, this garment really is super fun. It's super simple to make, and it's just a basic knit top with a simple facing that has interfacing in the facing itself. It probably wouldn't need it, but I did put interfacing in it, and it has really nice detail with the princess seams, and it's great. And if this is a top that fits your style, definitely look at our website for the jersey knit kit that we have available, or I have to stop and say a big thank you as well for everybody that shopped during our jersey knit sale. Thank you so much. I never knew so many people loved jersey knit or wanted to try it, so I really appreciate that so very much, as well as all of the sewing patterns and or garment patterns and sewing books. You guys are going to be very busy, so that is also one of the reasons why I want to talk a little bit more about the knit and laying out your patterns, because once you get your fabric and your patterns, if you do have any of those questions, I'm hoping we can answer them here. So, but that is the jersey knit top that I finished, and that I'm going to be wearing in the next couple of weeks. The next pattern that I want to talk to you about is the garment that I'm wearing. This is the other garment that I did finish, and it is the Batik 6416. And here is the cover of this pattern. It has several options, as you can see, and it is a short sleeve. We also have 3/4 length. We have the long sleeve, and then this is the version that has a little bit of a stand-up collar that would be added to the top of this neckline, okay? And I tried to do a little bit of a combination of 2 of these views, which Might have caused a little bit confusion for me, but I worked through it. It is, I really love this idea of the color block version here of View C, but I wanted to make it 3/4 length to wear now. And that's what I did. So I am wearing a combination of two fabrics. This is the top version, or the top fabric up here is our hand-dyed sapphire. And both of these are rayon. This is the rayon garment. It has just really great drape to it. And then the main portion of this, the body of the garment, is Violetta in the colorway of Lake. And these two shades, I think, just go beautifully together. And I really love how it turned out. It is quite, I'm just going to do a quick little review. It is a very long garment. I did not adjust this. I probably could have put more of a hem on it to bring it up just a little bit, but I didn't. And I did cut the sleeves a little shorter, probably about 2 inches shorter. So they are a very long sleeve. But I really love the look of this. And I don't know, I like the fit. Everything seems to fit really, really well. Now, I always tell you my size and what I did to adjust the pattern. What I did for this particular garment pattern is so my bust is a 39 and I go down to a hip of about a 44. So what I did is I actually made, and I don't know how I got away with this, but I made a 14, which is a bust of 36. That's how much ease was in the top of this particular garment. And then I graded it down to a 16. And I had to do a little trickery because this pattern comes in two pattern size groupings. This is a 6 to a 14, and then the second grouping is a 16 to a 24. And so I did not have a size 16 in here to grade it to, so I just added a little bit, probably, I think it was a 1/2 inch to the sides of both the front and the back of my garment pieces. I just used a chalk and drew it on the fabric to cut it out, and that just seemed to be the right size for me. And everything else just worked out really, really well. Let me talk a little bit about the pattern pieces themselves. Now, I knew from the line drawings on the back that this is not a traditional set-in sleeve. It's not really a raglan sleeve. It's really quite an interesting sleeve, and it's very creative. Here are the pattern pieces that I want to share with you, because there's really, let me put it this way, there's really nothing complicated about this tunic top. It's just, you have to be very careful with how the top portion of this garment is added to the front and the back. It is one piece from the arm. Now I have a seam going up my shoulder here and the side of my sleeve. One piece that stops here, one piece that stops here, same with the back, okay? So there is no sleeve at all. It's just an angled piece of fabric. Here's the pattern piece so that you can see what I'm talking about. This is, I think this is the front. Yes. Okay, so here is the, I'm gonna kind of go backwards here on you here. This is the pattern piece for the front, and basically the back has the similar shape. The grain line on this piece is right here, okay? This has to be on straight of grain here, and then you get that drape of the sleeve down, okay? And the back piece is just like this. So your join mark with the front and back of the garment is right here. You stitch straight, stop your needle, and then pivot with a curve, okay? And this then gets joined at the side seam of your garment. Now let me show you the front and the back pattern pieces almost look identical. Let me show you the front. So here is the pattern piece for the front, okay? So it just has the arm right there, and then it goes straight across. This is on the fold. The back is also on the fold. And then there's your shape to your pattern piece, okay? And like I said, I added a little bit of a curve here that went beyond the size 14 that's sitting right here. So it just ended up to be like a little bit of like a 16 there, okay? So the join itself wasn't that difficult, but what I think I'm going to do is a little bit of a tutorial on the step-by-step of joining this top to the front, the yoke to the front of the garment. Just because I have a little bit of a different way of doing this stitching and then placing your needle and then turning. I actually serge it, and I serge it going across, and then I serge it, take my needle out, and then I separate it and I serge it going down the arm, and you end up with that pivot point without having to do that pivot stop, okay? So I want to do a little tutorial on that, so I'm sure I confused you all by my description, but I think it will be helpful just to, I've done this in several garments, whether it be something like this or something where the collar has to pivot and turn. I just simply, you can stitch it with your sewing machine all the way through and then come back and stitch it as well, as long as you have cut into that angle, because you have to cut into the angle here in order for this to work, and for it to lay flat. And then it joins just beautifully. And it's just a technique that I've used for any type of pattern where we have to do that dramatic pivot without another seam in here somewhere. And so that I can show you what to do there. So that is this garment. So it's 4 pieces plus, I shouldn't say 4 pieces, it's 6 pieces, pattern pieces, but it's 4 major pieces, and then there is, you cut 4 of this front band that goes right here and seals off the front of your yoke. And then there's also a piece that you lay on the bias. You need a bias strip to finish off your neckline here. So there's only one little piece that needs interfacing, and that is here. So this is 4 pieces again, right there. And the pattern does recommend adding a button and create some form of a closure here for your button. I'm not going to do that. I just felt like it was too high to put a button closure on it, and maybe if it were looser fitting and a little bit lower, I might do that, but I'm not going to do that on this particular version. I just don't think it's needed, and it's really nice to have a nice little opening here that isn't too low. So again, here is the front of the Batik pattern jacket, and it's 64-16, and it really, really is a simple and yet stylish top that, I don't know, adds a little bit of flair. And I think what I'm going to do too is I'm going to put together various fabric combinations as possible suggestions for you for this top. So like if you want something like this, you can make this all out of one fabric. But if you want to make it out of 2, like I have done, I'll help you out with that as well. Or we have, as a reminder, I want to bring this to everybody's attention too, is we do have this personal assistant option on our website where you can book time with me for a half an hour or 45 minutes just to talk about a project that you're working on, where I can go and find fabrics and help you put together and coordinate fabrics for you. So that is always an option, and you can find that on our website just to schedule time. And I make sure that my calendar is in sync with what's on our website so that you can book that time. Okay, so just know that that's always an option. But I will put together a couple of really fun fabric combinations that I think you'll enjoy as well. So that was my big 2 garments this week anyway. And I still have, next up I think will be, I'm pretty sure, is going to be the pants and our square neck top out of both the linen and the cotton jersey knit. Okay, so the pants will be linen and the square neck top is going to be out of the jersey knit. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I have 2 dresses. The fringe is going to be out of our rayon, which is the Violetta in the colorway of Cope and Blue. And then the last one is our McCall's really, really flowy, fun dress out of, again, a jersey knit. And this will be the short sleeve version with the round neck. And I think out of our jersey knit, the yardage that I cut for this is, let me see if I can find this really, really quick. It is going to be a combination of C and A. So 2 1/8 yards is really all I need for the knee length. And that's what I have here. Now this, okay, so those are my projects that I still have left, the 4 projects. I keep wanting to move on to the next topic a little bit too fast. So let me set these aside, and then I'll address some questions that you guys had about our jersey knit this week, which were great, great questions. I moved over to this cutting table because I want to share with you how I plan and lay out pattern pieces on our 72-inch wide jersey knit. And the reason this is important is because with all of you purchasing our jersey knit this past week, we have had a lot of questions regarding how do I plan my patterns that call for 60-inch wide fabric. Do I need as much yardage, or did I buy too much yardage, or whatever the question happens to be if our fabric is 72 inches wide? First of all, there isn't a right or wrong answer here. It really does depend on the pattern itself. The fullness of the garment, your body measurements, everything actually is really individual. And I wish I could give an answer that says, yes, if you have 60-inch wide fabric and it calls for 2 1/4, all you need is 2. But the answer isn't that simple, and I'm going to show you why. In the quilting world, when you're cutting out fabric for quilt blocks out of a cotton, and we're converting, let's say we were converting from our 115-inch wide fabric down to the equivalent of 45, or vice versa. There's simple math there. You can take the width of the fabric, you can do all the little calculations to calculate it out, and then you'll know how to convert that because you're typically cutting strips or squares. And your only limitation there is how big your square is, okay? Same exact philosophy for the jersey knit. Or even if it were rayon, how do you convert from a 45 to a 60-inch wide fabric versus the other? So everything is truly about our body measurements, about the fullness of the pattern, and how those pattern pieces can be interlocked into the fabric, because there's only one way to position your fabric or your pattern pieces on the fabric. The knit has to go around you. The grain line of this fabric, the stretch of the knit has to go around you. Let me put it that way. So the grain line of your knit matters. So we can't simply turn the pattern piece like we could on a woven fabric, like a rayon or a cotton, and still get the same look and be able to use a little bit more of the fabric. We can't do that with a knit at all, unless it's, well, our 20% two-way stretch knit. I'm only going to speak for our knit itself. So this is a yard of our jersey knit, and I just pulled one of our t-shirt roll-ups that we have. And so this has not been washed. I just wanted to use this as an example. So our yard of fabric, and what I typically do is always make sure that when I'm laying out my fabric, I have my selvages always going away from me. I don't have them next to me. I have them going away from me, because then I know that my pattern will lay on here as if it were on myself. That's just how I visualize everything. And with this being folded, this is 36 inches folded, most of the time I have to open this wide up to 72 and refold it to really use the fabric efficiently. I never fold my selvages touching, never, and then lay a pattern on it, because here's what happens if you do that. I'm just gonna grab a basic pattern. This happens to be the Simple Elegant Tee pattern, and we're gonna talk about that in a minute. But if you were to lay this particular pattern on the fold, and hopefully you can see this in the camera, look at all the fabric that would be, in essence, just chopped up and kind of made unusable. We want to be able to use every little bit of our fabric. And so what I end up doing is always leaving my pattern pieces set aside. I open up my fabric, and I happen to always have my right sides up. That's just what I do. Follow the pattern instructions, whether or not they want you to position your right sides together with the wrong side up, however you plan to do that. And then with this fully wide open, we pull in one of the edges, and knowing how wide our pattern piece is, we can make this can be so simple to do, is we just simply use our guides on our table or a tape measure, measure across, and know how wide our pattern piece is on the fold, lay it out on that fold, knowing that it's going to fit, disregard my sleeve here, and there I can cut out my pattern because it's going to fit right within this little folded area. And look at all of this fabric I have left that I can make my next garment with or use for another pattern piece. So typically what I do, I will fold in one selvage edge. I will fold in the other selvage edge. Okay. This will be the front of my garment if it's on a fold. This will be the back of my garment if it's on a fold. And if it's not on the fold, that's still enough fabric to cut out the front of your garment and get the two pieces right there. Then what I do is I will take my front facing, I will take my sleeves, whatever it happens to be, and those come out of the middle if there's space. Sometimes there's not space. And so then that's when we need more than what we have. This is like a yard of fabric here for just a simple t-shirt. But if we can't get, typically it's because we have a 3/4 length or a long sleeve. If we can't get both of those out of the center of this garment, we need more fabric. And that's what ends up being more than a yard of fabric, is how much sleeve, what's the length of our garment, and what's our measurement around, okay? So if we are making something that has fullness, a lot of fullness, like this dress, which has actually quite a bit of fullness at its hem, and most pattern jackets will tell you how full the bottom width is. For example, C, which is the one I'm going to make, is for a large is 63.5 inches at the hem. So that gets us very close to 72 inches, okay? So we're probably going to fold this into itself to cut out the front and the back, and then I'll need more fabric for my sleeves because I won't get that out of the center of this garment or of this fabric at all. So that's kind of how you should be looking at some of these patterns. Is sure, it says that it is 2 1/8 yards for 60-inch wide fabric, but there's only one way to lay it out. And if you can get an arm out of 12 inches, which is the difference between 60 and 72, then you might not need as much fabric. But most arms are wider at its widest point, most arm sleeve patterns. So it could or it might not fit, okay? And that's the piece that I wish I could say, yes, just remove the inches that are needed for the sleeve and bring that up into the yardage for your overall top, but it's not that simple. And I wish it were, but every single time what I do for the patterns that we offer on our website, when I get that question about a specific pattern, I will go and open the pattern up and I'll get you that answer. So you know how much yardage to actually purchase to make your garment. And if we have a garment kit for these patterns, I've already done the work. And so the yardage is listed, and you're only going to get what you truly need to make your garment out of our 72-inch wide jersey knit, okay? So that's basically kind of how I have to answer those questions about converting 62-inch wide patterns into our 72-inch wide fabric. So I wish I could be just definitively yes or no, this is what you need to do, but it depends on the pattern and it depends on your size. And again, I'm more than happy to help you with any questions that you happen to have about that. Okay, so that's that question. The second question that I want to address is also a question of yardage and of our jersey knit, and how do we do a conversion, and do I really need as much fabric as the pattern requires? This is specific to the Simple Elegant Tee. And the Simple Elegant Tee has 3 different sleeve variations, and the yardage, regardless of the sleeve variation, is anywhere from 1.5 yards to 2 yards. The yardage itself is the length of your garment divided by 2. So if you order, let's say 2 yards of fabric, you want a longer version of this, 2 yards of fabric for the dolman sleeve or the kimono sleeve, whatever it happens to be, that is the length of your garment. Let me show you the pattern piece. This is the pattern piece folded in half. This is for the dolman. I've only made the dolman because it's my favorite. So I'm holding this out just to show you that it's a one-piece pattern. And this is the back hem all the way down to the neckline to the front hem, okay? And here is your sleeve. And this is actually the dolman sleeve. I've got it taped on. So let me hold this one more time. This dictates the length of the fabric you need, or the yardage is the length of your garment, okay? So if you only need, let's say 25 inches, which is a traditional length here. I've made a gazillion of these. This is probably 1.5 yards is really all you need, or 1 3/4 yards. I have also made several of these because I like a longer tunic length. And my most recent ones are very long. So I start with 2 yards of fabric. And that gives me the same exact garment, but it is much longer. okay? So I think the back of this pattern jacket sometimes is extremely confusing with the yardage that you truly need. And again, this is based off of 45-inch wide fabric and a woven fabric. So you don't need a lot of stretch to it. It just like really nicely fits any body style, to be honest with you, with your specific sleeve. Now, let me get to the question. I just needed to share all of that so that you could see what we're dealing with here. The question was, if I am making the simple elegant tee and our jersey knit is 72 inches wide, do I really need, which is equal to 2 yards. 72 is 2 yards in numbers. Do I need more than a yard? And the answer is you need the exact same yardage that you would if it were a 45-inch wide woven fabric, because first of all, our jersey knit, being a knit and only having two-way stretch, can only be, the pattern can only be positioned one way on this fabric. So again, we need to fold this in half. So we have our fold. We're going to lay out our pattern piece, which is on the fold this way. So we still need the 1.5 yards to 2 yards. And follow my recommendation where you still can fold this as far as you need it to go, or you can make a longer sleeve. This is a great opportunity to actually lengthen a dolman sleeve to be a long sleeve. So you can have a simple elegant tee with a long sleeve out of our jersey knit because of that width, okay? So I love the jersey knit with this pattern. I also have several of them. And so you just simply put this on the fold, have your sleeve be as long as you want it to be, and yes, you will have excess fabric going down one side of the selvage here, because unless you make a really, really long sleeve, you don't need that much fabric to make this garment. But I can tell you, a simple elegant tee out of jersey knit is fantastic. Now, I'm gonna complicate the matter. I'm gonna move this out of the way. Well, actually I'm not. I'm gonna fold this in half so that the selvages are touching one more time. And for those of you who are asking, this is the Gardenista Vine motif, and the colorway is Autumn Fire. It's beautiful fabric. Okay, I did a test one time because I did get a lot of questions about how can I make my simple elegant tee out of 1 yard of jersey knit. So here's what I did. I took 1 yard of this fabric and I did just that. I cut this pattern apart right at the natural shoulder, which is marked on the pattern piece. I cut this in half so that I would have a traditional front and back pattern piece. When I laid out my pattern piece, one piece on a fold with the arm going this way, and the other piece on this fold with the arm going this way. So we can flip our pattern piece this way. It's like playing Jenga with this way and then this way, okay, so that they interlock, but we cannot turn it this way. We can't go against the grain on a knit. And that's why I wanted to share this with you, because you may want to utilize your knit in a different way to use most of it up, but we can't because it is a knit. It's our knit. It's the two-way stretch knit, and it just will not, you will not be happy with it at all. Even though it has only 20% stretch, you still won't be happy with it if you turn this. So what I ended up having to do is when I did put this on the fold, I did not get a full 3/4 length dolman sleeve. And that's the only difference here, is I laid out my pattern pieces, I added a seam allowance, and I was serging mine. So I basically added a 1/2 inch seam allowance to the top of my 2 shoulder pieces so that I would make sure that I didn't change the shape of this pattern in any way. So I just used a fabric pencil and my ruler and marked a 1/2 inch all the way across, and then stitched this together before I finished my garment following the pattern instructions. And so this black, and I'm sorry it's black, it's probably not easy to see, but this is our hand-dyed tuxedo. It's great to have a black t-shirt, but it has a seam right at the top, right there, but I could only get a sleeve that is more like a traditional cap sleeve, this long, and so it ends about right here because of the width of the fabric. So that's what I did to test out whether or not we could actually make a simple elegant tee out of 1 yard. So if you're willing to cut your pattern piece in half and add a shoulder seam, you can do it too. So there is the answer to that specific question. And hopefully it's self-evident on how to lay out your pattern pieces and how to really plan how much yardage you need. I think for myself, unless a pattern for the knit is extremely streamlined and straight and doesn't have a lot of flair to it, you might be able to reduce your yardage. But again, really plan it and know that, plan it out, look at the pattern layout in here, measure your pattern pieces so you know the width of them and can do that math. I know math is not a happy thing for everyone, but I think in garment sewing, we definitely need to do our math for this specific reason. So hopefully I was able to answer both of those questions regarding jersey knit. And again, whenever you have a question or just need some assistance or somebody to bounce your question off of, or to just kind of clarify your answer, get on our chat message on our website and just ask away. Or again, definitely sign up for a personal assistant half hour, and I'm more than happy. We get on a Zoom call and we talk about what your project is and how I can help you with that. And it's free and it's easy and it's great. So definitely do that. And let me know what you think. What other questions do you have? You're going to be receiving a lot of jersey knit and a lot of rayon and a lot of patterns here in the next week. So I'm more than happy to help. So for this, I have to honestly tell you, today's Friday is not, it's like a gloomy day out there in North Dakota. And if you've been watching the news at all, there have been some wildfires up in Canada that are making us really dreary and icky, and a lot of ash smell around here. But we hope your Friday is a happy one and that you have a wonderful start to your weekend. And again, give us some comments below. Let us know what your questions are and what you're thinking about, and we will see you in the next video.